RStudio question involving correlation. So we are given a data file which we will load into RStudio, and the first part is to construct a scatter diagram. So you will always set the working directory in RStudio, go in your file browser to the directory where your files are. Now in your exam, where exactly these are will depend on how your centre has set it up. One thing people get confused by is at this point they think that the folder is empty. However, it isn't, and you can see that after you select it, on the right hand side you can see the files are there. The next two steps are in your data booklet. As a reminder, you have to read.csv using that command and put the file name. Now this has to be the CSV file for RStudio to open it, and then attach to my data, otherwise you won't be able to access it. And once you've loaded the data in, have a quick look at it by clicking on the My Data on the top right, and you can see we have two variables. One is moisture and the other is heat. We are being asked to create a scatter graph of moisture content against heat output. Now it says that the heat output is the associated heat output, so we'll assume that that is the dependent variable and it's thought of as the result of the moisture content. So associated heat output will go on the vertical axis, moisture content on the horizontal axis. When you are creating a scatter graph, you can copy and paste from the formula sheet. So let's do that. The command you need is plot. You'll see in this command that there are X and Y. Now we're going to need to change those. X and Y are the variables that we have. So moisture will be on the horizontal axis, so we have to change X into moisture and Y into heat. We'll also need to change xlab to the label we want on the horizontal axis, which will simply be moisture, and the units are the percent, because it's the percentage moisture content. And on the vertical axis will be heat output, and that's measured in kilowatts. The main title doesn't need to be too creative. All you need to do is simply state the two variables, scatter plot of heat output on moisture content. And when you're done, the output should look like this with all of the labels. Next thing is to copy this scatter plot into your answer document. So one way to do this is to go to Export, click on Copy to Clipboard, and then click on Copy Plot. Once you've done that, go to your answer document and paste. At the end of your exam, you will be printing this out and handing it in. Now we need to look at this scatter graph for part 2, where we need to make 2 comments about the scatter graph. One thing you will notice is that there is a negative correlation, and that's something you'll be aware of from National 5. So let's state that there is a negative correlation. You'll also know about strong and weak correlation, and you can see it is a fairly strong negative correlation. According to the marking scheme, that is what you need to get 2 marks. You would get 1 mark for saying negative correlation, the other mark for a strong correlation. The other thing you could have said was, looking at the graph, as well as there being a negative relationship, you can see that the points lie on a straight line. And that means you can say, even without doing a correlation, that it is a linear relationship. And that's the other thing that you could have stated, was that there is a linear relationship between the 2 variables. Now I'm not completely sure how this kind of question would be marked if something like it came up, but remember those 2 points that you've got, negative correlation, and if you're looking for a second comment, you could also state it's a linear relationship based on the graph. Now in part B, we are asked to find the equation of the regression line. The command for this is in your data booklet. The one you need is LM. Now that happens to stand for linear model if it helps you remember it, although that is not important. Notice that Y comes first. So in our question, we will have to put heat first, which is the opposite way round to the way it was in the scatter plot. So it's heat tilde moisture. Then you take the output from this and copy and paste it into your answer document. This will give you 1 mark. To get your second mark, you will need to come up with the regression equation by interpreting this RStudio output. The equation is for heat, so the equation will start heat equals something. And then we'll use the numbers in this output to get the formula. So I think it's simplest to keep the order of the output. The intercept 7.9 is just the number on its own. That's not multiplied by anything. So we'll have that at the beginning. And then you'll add on the second number multiplied by the variable. Now in this case, the second number is minus 0.05. So we can simply just say minus 0.05751 multiplied by moisture. And that is the equation of the regression line. You could also have written this the other way round. Heat output equals minus 0.05751 times moisture plus 7.95778. That would have been equally correct. Let's see, it says you need to make an estimation, and this will be using the regression model. The question mentions these words prediction interval. Now it's never been quite clear whether this is supposed to be in the course or not, but it was in one of the past papers, and it is also in the data booklet. So you would go to your data booklet, and the one you need to use is this predict, and it is probably simplest just to copy and paste it. And there are 3 things you need to change here: the X, the Y, and also the capital C. The X and the Y are the variables. X is moisture in this case, and Y is heat. X appears a second time, and then we are predicting what the value of X is. Well, no, we are predicting at the value of X, moisture, when that is the value, which is 35, which was in the question. This output we then copy and paste into the answer document. Again, this gets you 1 mark, but for your second mark, you need to interpret what this means. We have given us an answer box to write on in this question, although I think when you have questions with an answer document that you print out, that you could put some of the answers in there as well. They should try and mark whichever one you put it in. But we'll use the answer box because it's given to us. So looking at the output from R, the predicted value is 5.94. What this means is actually difficult to explain because it is quite technical. But we'll just say that's the predicted value. So the estimated value is that first number. Now it says that we should interpret this by referring to the prediction interval. The reason there's a range of values is because even though it was a strong correlation, we could see there was some range of variation. Not all the points on the scatter plot lay on a perfect straight line. The other reason there's uncertainty is because only from the sample we've got, we may not have got the parameters of the regression line absolutely correct for the actual relationship that actually exists. So those two things give us some uncertainty in any prediction that we make. So if you have a question like this which asks for prediction interval, one way of saying it is that the true value likely lies between the lower value and the upper value. And I don't think we need to give all of these decimal places. We'll just do something sensible, 2 decimal places. So the true value will likely lie in between the two values. As I said before, the meaning of a prediction interval is a little technical, but what it means is if it's, for example, a 95% prediction interval, 95% of the time when you make this linear regression model and then use it to make a prediction, the true value will lie within your prediction interval. Now on to part D, the implication of your analysis for anyone intending to use Woodchips as a source of heat. To be honest, it is a bit of a strange question. I think you have to think about the context of the question and the fact that people obviously want heat using these Woodchips. So the question is, how do you get more heat? Well, one way of doing it is to get low moisture content. So maybe they could leave the Woodchips to dry out more. That's not actually what the marking scheme says. It said that you had to say that a lower moisture content would lead to a higher heat output, which to me seems like you're repeating the statement that it's a negative correlation between the two. So I think what they were intending with this question is just to give you one to think about a bit with the context of the question, although I don't know if you would have anything similar in a real exam. So I've said there they will tend to give a higher heat output, and that's what people want.